Welcome to the deep dive. You sent in this fascinating interview with RJ Spina, and he calls himself a spiritual teacher.
Okay.
Through a YouTube channel
Mm-hmm.
called Ascend the Frequencies.
Okay.
And, well, his take on 2025 is, well, let's just say it's unique.
Okay.
And so we are diving into this interview to see what we can learn from it.
Yeah, it's interesting how this interview kind of touches on a lot of the anxieties and the popular spiritual ideas surrounding this year.
Right.
Spina's claims might sound a little bit far out to some people,
Sure.
but it's important to analyze them critically.
All right, let's get into it. So Spina kicks things off by claiming that the Earth is being hit with what he calls supremely high-frequency energies.
Okay.
He suggests this marks a major turning point in history.
Yeah, and this idea of like a massive shift happening right now is like a recurring theme that we see in New Age spirituality. And it often lacks like scientific grounding.
Right.
But it does reflect like a deep human desire for change and transformation. I mean, think about it. Like a lot of us feel like something big is happening in the world.
Yeah.
And this idea of these like energetic shifts provides an explanation for it.
Yeah, so what are we supposed to do with these energies?
Yeah.
So Spina says we have a choice. We can either embrace them and what he calls ascend,
Okay.
or we can get stuck in what he calls the matrix.
Hmm.
He also talks a lot about the power of attention, claiming that where it goes, energy flows, and whatever it's upon grows.
Yeah, and this actually ties into some real concerns that we have about information overload and what's been called the attention economy. We're constantly being bombarded with stimuli, and it's easy to feel really overwhelmed and manipulated.
Right.
But Spina takes it like a step further by connecting it to spiritual evolution.
Okay.
He's suggesting that our attention has a direct impact not just on our mental state,
Right.
but on our very souls.
He even compares it to food.
Yeah.
We know junk food is bad for us, but we don't always apply that same logic to what we consume mentally. So that endless scroll through social media, that's the junk food of the mind, according to Spina.
Yeah, and the psychology of attention is incredibly complex.
Right.
There's this constant battle for our focus, both from external forces like advertising, but also from our own internal biases.
Right.
We can get caught in these cycles of negativity or get like addicted to that dopamine rush of getting notifications. It's no wonder people are feeling kind of mentally drained and spiritually depleted.
So if we are creating our reality with our attention, does that mean predictions are pointless? Spina seems to think so.
Okay.
He calls predictions garbage.
All right.
And suggests that even accurate predictions like those from The Simpsons are actually influencing reality rather than predicting it.
Interesting. So this raises some really fascinating questions about free will versus determinism.
Okay.
Do we actually have control over our destiny?
Yeah.
Or are we just playing out a script that's already been written? Spina's stance leans very heavily towards free will.
Right.
He's suggesting that by focusing on a particular outcome, even if it's a prediction, we might unintentionally bring it about.
So are the Simpsons writers secretly controlling the world?
Oh, well, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Our minds are kind of wired to look for patterns and meaning.
Sure.
And when we encounter a prediction that resonates with either our fears or our desires, we tend to pay more attention to events that confirm it. And this is called confirmation bias, and it can make even the most outlandish predictions seem believable.
So, okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about technology.
Okay.
Spina sees it as a double-edged sword.
Okay.
He acknowledges its benefits, but warns against over-reliance.
Yeah, this echoes a very common concern that we have in our tech-saturated world.
Right.
We've become so dependent on our devices that some argue they're actually hindering our development. Spina believes that if we weren't glued to our phones, that our telepathic abilities would return much faster.
This taps into a broader anxiety about the impact of technology on our brains and evolution.
Right.
While there's no scientific evidence to support the claim about telepathy,
Sure.
Spina's point is that this excessive screen time might be distracting us from developing our innate potential.
He even links this to a satanic agenda, which he describes as the removal of God from our consciousness by constantly pulling our attention outward instead of inward.
It's crucial to understand that Spina is using satanic metaphorically here, not literally.
Right.
He's highlighting the idea that something is working against our spiritual growth, and he sees technology as a major culprit.
So how do we navigate this tech paradox?
Right.
Spina suggests that we should always ask ourselves, what am I trying to achieve when we're using technology?
Okay.
He argues that if the answer is instant gratification, it's probably our ego calling the shots. Yeah, this encourages a more mindful and intentional approach to technology.
Right.
Instead of kind of passively consuming content or chasing distractions, we should be using technology as a tool to support our goals and values.
So Spina argues that this ties into what he calls ascension.
Okay.
He describes it as a shift from operating from our ego mind, which he calls the consumer mind, to aligning with our true selves, the creator mind.
Yeah, and this resonates with a lot of psychological theories of self-actualization.
Okay.
The idea is to move beyond the ego's need for like external validation and material possessions and really tap into a deeper sense of purpose and self-expression.
So how do we actually do this inner work and connect with our true selves? So Spina emphasizes detaching from the identifications and attachments that we've formed through our life experiences.
Yeah, and this concept of detachment can be a little tricky.
Okay.
It doesn't mean becoming like emotionless or abandoning our responsibilities. It's more about cultivating an inner peace and freedom that isn't dependent on external circumstances.
He suggests a meditation technique where you imagine you've just arrived on Earth with no past, no future, only the present moment.
Right.
He claims that this helps us tap into pure awareness, which he sees as our true essence.
Yeah, so this technique aims to help us break free from like limiting beliefs and conditioned patterns of thinking. You know, it's about experiencing the world with fresh eyes and an open mind, like a newborn, seeing everything for the first time.
Now let's get to the part you've all been waiting for.
Okay.
Aliens.
All right.
Spina has some strong opinions here.
I bet.
He asserts that aliens have always been here and are not that hard to communicate with if you have the right frequency.
Okay. So this plays on our fascination with the unknown and the possibility of extraterrestrial life.
Right.
It also taps into a belief system that attributes specific frequencies to different levels of consciousness and reality.
So Spina distrusts any mainstream media announcements about aliens, believing they'll be part of a controlled narrative. He thinks they're here, but they're not exactly hanging out at the mall.
Right. So this ties back into his idea of the matrix, this system of control that kind of manipulates our perceptions and limits our understanding of reality.
He even described a device supposedly used in Atlantis and ancient Egypt that could adjust the brain's electromagnetic frequency, allowing people to see different realities and interact with beings that would normally be invisible to us.
Well, intriguing, this claim definitely requires a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
It's important to consider the source of information and to evaluate the evidence before accepting something as true.
So Spina claims we can still access these abilities today, not through external technology, but by tuning the electromagnetic frequency of our brain through practices like meditation.
Yeah, this aligns with certain spiritual traditions that believe we have this kind of untapped potential within.
You know, by engaging in specific practices, they believe we can achieve higher states of consciousness and expanded perceptions.
He even suggests that most aliens aren't these enlightened beings. They have their own agendas and belief systems just like us.
This challenges the common trope of aliens as these like superior beings who come to save humanity.
Right.
It suggests that even extraterrestrial life might face similar limitations and challenges.
So if you're hoping for an alien savior, Spina might disappoint you.
Yeah.
But he does believe that open contact with aliens could lead to some incredible collaborations, especially in technology.
Yeah, this raises some really intriguing possibilities for the future, but it's crucial to approach such interactions with discernment and awareness of potential risks.
Okay, now let's talk money. Who wouldn't love to know the secret to making $1 million in 2025? Well, Spina's advice might surprise you.
Okay.
He says don't make money the goal.
All right.
Focus on sharing something of real value that will improve people's lives. So this speaks to the entrepreneurial spirit and the idea of creating abundance by providing genuine value. But it also raises some ethical questions about the pursuit of wealth and the potential for exploitation.
He believes the money will follow naturally as an energy exchange when we genuinely focus on serving others.
Right. This perspective is often found in discussions of manifestation and the law of attraction. The idea is that our thoughts and intentions can actually influence our reality.
He cautions against seeing money as something outside of ourselves
Okay.
or something to be feared,
Mm-hmm.
which is a common belief in a lot of spiritual circles.
Right.
He also criticizes the idea that spiritual information should be free,
Okay.
as coming from a place of lack.
Right. So this challenges the notion that spirituality should be separate from material wealth.
Right.
Spina suggests that money is simply a neutral form of energy that can be used for good or bad.
Right.
Our relationship with it really reflects our internal state.
He argues that people who undervalue their services or hesitate to charge their worth often suffer from low self-worth
Mm-hmm.
and a disconnect from their true self.
Right.
When we're truly aligned with our authentic selves, he says we naturally recognize and honor our value.
This perspective encourages us to examine our beliefs and limiting patterns around money. Are we truly valuing ourselves and our contributions?
He even reframes the word selling, which he believes has negative connotations because it's often associated with manipulation.
Right.
He prefers to use the phrase sharing value,
Mm-hmm.
which feels more authentic and service-oriented.
Yeah, this highlights the importance of framing and intention. When we approach exchanges with a genuine desire to serve, the energy shifts from manipulation to mutual benefit.
He even talks about enjoying being sold to.
Oh.
He describes a recent online purchase after
Good.
watching an infomercial.
Uh-huh.
He emphasizes that when done, right selling can be fun and mutually beneficial.
So this challenges the perception of selling as inherently negative or coercive. Right. When both parties are engaged and the product actually meets a need, selling can be a positive exchange.
He encourages us to think about all the amazing things in our lives that we've been sold on,
Okay.
from technology to everyday products,
Right.
and to recognize the positive role that selling has played.
So this shifts the focus from the negative connotations of selling to the positive impact it can have when done ethically and with a genuine intention to provide value.
So how do we find that something of great value to share with the world?
Right.
Spina believes it's usually what we're most passionate about,
Yeah.
the thing that we feel compelled to express and share. He suggests that true passion aligns with our true selves, and that authentic expression is where we find the greatest value to offer.
Yeah. This advice encourages us to really connect with our passions and explore what we're excited to share.
Right.
When we align with our authentic selves, our work naturally becomes a source of both personal fulfillment and genuine value for others. Yeah, it's fascinating to consider how this ties back into, Spina's earlier points about attention and the matrix.
Right.
He seems to suggest that when we chase external things like money, we kind of lose sight of our true purpose and the real value that we possess.
He also distinguishes between authentic excitement
Right.
and the superficial kind that comes from external validation
Yes.
or material gain.
Yeah, this distinction is key. It encourages us to be more self-aware.
Right.
And really examine our motivations.
So,
Are our desires truly our own?
yeah.
Or are they influenced by these external pressures?
What about those of us who struggle with self-doubt? It's hard to believe in our own value when we're constantly, comparing ourselves to others.
Yeah, Spina suggests that this self-doubt actually stems from being disconnected from our true selves. The more we identify with our perceived flaws and limitations,
Right.
the harder it becomes to recognize our inherent worth.
He calls this the false person.
It's that collection of limiting beliefs
Right.
and conditioned patterns that we mistake for our true identity.
Yeah. It's like we're wearing a mask that hides our authentic selves.
Okay.
And this mask is often formed, in childhood
Right.
based on societal expectations,
Sure.
family dynamics, past experiences.
So how do we break free from this false person?
Right.
Spina talks about the importance of deprogramming,
Okay.
bringing those subconscious patterns
Right.
into conscious awareness so we can examine them and release them.
Yeah. And this process of deprogramming can be challenging,
Right.
but it's essential for personal growth.
Yeah.
It involves, digging deep into our beliefs and uncovering the root causes of our self-doubt.
He uses the analogy of a kinked hose to represent those blockages created by our limiting beliefs. As we release those kinks, the flow of energy increases,
Right.
allowing for greater abundance in all areas of our lives. It's a powerful metaphor
Yeah.
that illustrates the importance of removing those internal obstacles.
Right.
When we clear those blockages, we become more receptive to the opportunities and resources that are available to us.
Spina even shares his own experience with paralysis,
Okay.
which he claims that he overcame through these same principles of manifestation that he applies to money and other aspects of life.
Hmm. So this personal anecdote highlights the power of belief and intention.
Right.
It suggests that by changing our mindset, we can create real change in our lives.
He stresses that manifestation is not just about positive thinking.
Okay.
It's about embodying the resonance of our desired outcome.
Yeah, this means aligning our thoughts, our emotions,
Right.
and our actions with our goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to simply wish for something.
Right.
We need to take concrete steps
Yeah.
and truly believe in our ability to achieve it.
Spina believes that most affirmations and mantras are ineffective
Oh,
because they're layered on top of subconscious programming. That contradicts them.
right.
It's like trying to play two songs at the same time. The conflicting frequencies create chaos.
So this analogy emphasizes the need to address those underlying subconscious patterns
Yeah.
before we attempt to manifest something new. We need to kind of clear the ground before we can plant new seeds.
He also challenges the tradition of New Year's resolutions,
Okay.
claiming that they're often focused on fixing,
Right.
helping, acquiring, or becoming something,
Hmm.
which stems from the ego's desire for external validation.
So this perspective encourages us to really evaluate our goals
Yeah.
and consider whether they're truly aligned with our inner purpose. Are we chasing these external markers of success?
Yeah.
Or are we pursuing what truly matters to us?
Spina believes we should focus on becoming more present
Okay.
and allowing our true selves to unfold naturally.
Right.
When we're aligned with our authentic being,
Mm-hmm.
he says our actions will flow from a place of purpose and meaning.
Yeah, this approach emphasizes the importance of self-discovery and trusting our intuition.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey
Yeah.
and allowing life to unfold organically.
So Spina's alternative to resolutions is equanimity,
Okay.
which he and the interviewer chose as their word of the day.
Hmm.
What is equanimity exactly?
So equanimity is a state of mental calmness and composure,
Okay.
especially when facing challenges. It's about finding that inner stillness and balance,
Right.
no matter what's happening around you.
He believes equanimity is crucial for navigating the complexities of 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, in today's world, we're constantly bombarded with information
Right.
and external pressures.
Hmm.
Equanimity allows us to stay grounded and centered amidst all that chaos.
Yeah.
It enables us to make clear decisions
Right.
rather than reacting from fear or anxiety.
Spina encourages us to focus on things that make us feel lighter
Oh,
and freer. He suggests this is like a really simple way to determine what truly aligns with our true selves.
yeah, this advice highlights the importance of listening to our inner compass.
Right.
We need to pay attention to how different experiences affect our energy and well-being. When we prioritize things that uplift and inspire us,
Yeah.
we naturally move towards a more fulfilling life.
He reiterates this idea that there's no outside world in the sense that everything we experience is a projection of our own consciousness.
Okay.
Once we grasp this concept, he says, we stop feeling like victims
Right.
and reclaim our power as creators of our own reality.
This concept can be challenging to wrap our heads around, but it
Yeah.
really points to the interconnectedness of reality and the power of our thoughts and beliefs.
Right.
By shifting our perception and
Right.
taking responsibility for our internal state,
Right.
we can actually influence the world around us.
He suggests that obsessing over external events,
Okay.
especially those that we can't control, can actually disempower us.
Right.
Instead, he encourages us to focus our attention inward on our own state of being. This is where we have the greatest agency.
This aligns with the principles of mindfulness and self-awareness. It's about cultivating that inner peace and stability regardless of external circumstances.
Instead of getting caught up in, politics or the economy,
Right.
Spina suggests that we focus on what truly matters to us and cultivate an inner peace that doesn't depend on those external factors.
Okay.
He believes that when we align with our true selves and purpose,
Right.
that the external world will reflect that alignment.
This perspective challenges the belief that our happiness depends on external circumstances.
Yeah.
True fulfillment comes from within.
Right.
By cultivating inner peace and aligning with our true selves,
Yeah.
we create a ripple effect that extends outward into our experiences.
Spina also challenges the notion that goals are inherently limiting. He argues that any goal, no matter how ambitious, is ultimately based on a past experience
Right.
and therefore limits our potential for growth.
So this perspective kind of invites us to consider a more fluid and open-ended approach to life.
Okay.
We can embrace the unknown and allow ourselves to be guided by intuition.
Right.
Rather than rigidly adhering to these predetermined goals.
While acknowledging that goals can be helpful for tracking progress, he emphasizes that the real value lies in the process of pursuing them, the lessons learned, and the self-discovery that unfolds.
This shifts the focus from the destination to the journey.
Right.
It's about growth, learning, personal evolution rather than achieving specific outcomes.
Okay.
True success is measured by that inner transformation.
So what's Spina's ultimate advice for making 2025 the best year of our lives?
Right.
He kind of boils it down to self-knowledge and authenticity.
Okay.
He encourages us to understand our motivations, deprogram those limiting beliefs, and align our actions with who we truly are.
Yeah. This message really resonates with the core principles of personal growth and spiritual development.
Right.
True fulfillment and happiness
Yeah.
come from aligning with our authentic selves and expressing our unique gifts.
He reminds us that we can't receive what we don't give. We need to invest in ourselves, both literally and figuratively, if we want to experience greater abundance.
And this principle applies to all areas of life, from finances to relationships to personal growth.
Right.
When we invest in ourselves, we create a ripple effect that attracts greater abundance and opportunities.
Spina urges us to be mindful of our attention, reminding us that our attention directs our energy and shapes our reality.
This is a powerful reminder about the importance of conscious awareness and intentional choice. By focusing on what uplifts and inspires us, we cultivate a more positive and fulfilling reality.
He believes that when we shift from being consumers to creators, from passively absorbing information to actively shaping our reality, that we tap into a level of power and potential that most people haven't even begun to explore.
This message is both empowering and challenging.
Yeah.
It invites us to step into our full potential as conscious creators. It also requires us to take responsibility for our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions.
Right.
True freedom comes from realizing that we are not passive recipients of fate, but active participants in shaping our reality.
So Spina might dismiss New Year's resolutions, but what if you were to make one resolution based on this conversation? What commitment could you make? Not to fix or acquire or become, but to simply move closer to your authentic self, to that creator mind that Spina believes is our birthright.
That's a powerful question.
Yeah.
It encourages us to move beyond these superficial goals and connect with a deeper intention for this year. An intention that aligns with our true selves and aspirations.
Maybe it's dedicating more time to practices like meditation or journaling. Or perhaps it's paying more attention to your thoughts and beliefs, challenging those that no longer serve you, and aligning your actions with your values.
The key is to choose something that's authentic and inspiring, that resonates with your deepest desires and fuels your passion for life.
Remember Spina's words.
The
greatest technology ever invented is our own consciousness. When we tap into that power, the possibilities are limitless.
As we move forward into this new year, let's cultivate our inner awareness, choose our thoughts and actions wisely, and embrace our power to shape our own reality.
So much of what Spina talks about really boils down to taking radical responsibility for our lives. It's about recognizing that we're not just passive observers, but active participants in creating our reality.
It's a really powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
When we realize that our thoughts, beliefs, and actions directly shape our experiences, we become empowered to make conscious choices that align with our desired outcomes.
Spina's message can be challenging, though. It requires a willingness to look within and kind of confront those parts of ourselves that we might rather ignore.
It's not always easy to challenge our ingrained beliefs and patterns. But the rewards of doing so can be really profound. It can lead to a greater sense of self-awareness, purpose, and fulfillment.
It's like we've been handed this set of tools that we never knew existed.
Right.
And Spina is encouraging us to pick up those tools and start building the life that we truly desire.
Yeah, and remember, those tools aren't, external gadgets or quick fixes.
Right.
They're the inherent powers of our own consciousness, our ability to focus our attention, choose our thoughts, and take aligned action.
So this deep dive into Spina's interview has been a wild ride.
Yeah,
We've explored everything from high-frequency energies and the attention economy to alien contact and the metaphysics of money.
it's been a fascinating exploration of like a particular worldview
Right.
that intersects with a lot of these popular spiritual ideas.
Mhm.
While some of Spina's claims might seem far-fetched to some,
Sure.
his core message about self-discovery and conscious creation really resonates deeply with that human desire for meaning, purpose, and agency.
It's clear that Spina is really passionate about empowering people
Yeah.
to take control of their lives and create a reality that aligns with their true selves.
And while his approach might not resonate with everyone,
Sure.
there are certainly valuable takeaways here for anyone seeking to navigate these uncertain times with more clarity, purpose, and intention.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
we encourage you to reflect on what resonated with you,
Mm-hmm.
what stood out, what made you think differently.
Maybe you're inspired to explore some of the practices Spina mentioned, like meditation or journaling.
Right.
Maybe you're motivated to kind of examine your beliefs about money technology or your own potential. Or perhaps you're simply feeling a renewed sense of possibility and empowerment.
Whatever it is, we hope this deep dive has provided you with some food for thought
Right.
and some practical tools to apply in your own life.
Remember, the journey of self-discovery is ongoing.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn and explore.
Right.
We encourage you to stay curious, keep questioning, and continue to dive deep into the mysteries of life and consciousness.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into RJ Spina's thoughts. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you're interested in taking your personal growth journey to the next level, visit us at www.ultimatemasters.org coaching or send us a message on WhatsApp at +256-771-324-119. We love hearing from you, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family who might also benefit from these insights. See you tomorrow.